welcome to our third. It says number 2 there, number 3. Sorry about that. Our third Child First Effective Partnership practice webinar. It's called Prevention as a Partnership Responsibility. Before we start, a few bits of housekeeping. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see a closed caption button, show captions. That's automatic captioning should you need it. Please use that if you can. We also are recording this session, so thank you very much. You'll be able to watch it later. We'll send you that with the transcripts and also the PowerPoint presentations from Hayley and Sharon. We are also, we've got Gavin on as well. Hello, Gavin.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly. Thank you, Gavin.
Brilliant. Thank you.
That's marvellous. That's marvellous. Also, finally, if you wish to make a comment or actually sort of have a question for one of the panelists, please use the Q&A button. We don't tend to use the chat function, but I can actually send a hello message to everyone, which I'm going to do now. What I will do is, there we go. What I will do is then I'll basically, if there's any good questions coming through, I'll copy them into the chat function so everyone can see. There'll be time to hear the presentations. I'm delighted, absolutely delighted to welcome Hayley, and I think Gavin and Charlotte. I think you're all from the wonderful Camden Youth Offending Service. And we've also got Sharon on her own, but highly effective, from St Helens. We're looking at prevention today. And what struck me from our work with youth offending teams across the country is how the most effective youth offending services are investing heavily in prevention. It's really funny, the word diversion. I don't think it's a very child-first word, all right? That's my personal opinion. But the word diversion sometimes tends to be used when a young person enters a youth justice pathway in some way or another. I call prevention work pre-diversion diversion. You are going up the tributaries, trying to spot those first signs and doing something early. And the most amazing thing is different parts of the country do it in different ways. So today, we're going to hear from how Camden do it, and we're also going to hear how St Helens have been doing it. No more talk from me. I'm going to hand over to Hayley now, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and your colleagues, Hayley. Then seize control, and we're all ready to rumble. Thank you very much.
Okay. So I'm Hayley Mullen, and I'm a team manager in the Youth Justice Service. And with me, I have Charlotte Matthew, who is service manager, and Gavin Reynolds from Youth Early Help. So we're just going to talk a bit about our structure and what we do around diversion and youth early help. Okay, so if I just talk a bit about our structure, I've got these things on. So the Youth Justice Service is part of the Integrated Youth Support Service. So we have 5 strands. So it's us, it's resourcing and operations, youth violence and exploitation team, and a youth early help team, and a progress and participation team. So I'll just go on to say a bit about what each of those teams do. It's not going along. No. Oh, hold on. Sorry, I've lost it. No, I haven't. Here we go.
Well done.
Okay, so as I say, so there's 5 teams. So obviously people know about the Youth Justice Service, so I won't spend too much talking about that. So then we have the Youth Early Help team, who use a whole family approach in their assessments, and the teams consist of youth workers, substance misuse workers, early help case managers, connections workers, and they have advisors within the community-based teams. We have a progression and participation team, And that also comprises of youth work programs, careers advice, designed to promote engagement and achievement. The youth work program also includes dedicated careers and connections advisors and 14 fully qualified careers advisors. The Youth Violence and Exploitation team, they oversee our response to youth violence. So it's a fairly new team, and one of the teams is called Evolve, and they work with 17-and-a-half-year-olds up to 25 who are at risk of exploitation. That team also consists of detached youth workers who, I'll say a bit more about that, who deliver interventions in schools such as weapons awareness. And youth justice service case managers sometimes support those workers with that. And then we have the resource and operations team, which includes management information and quality assurance. So the Universal Youth Offer, as it says here, we've got a strong offer. It includes detached youth work, it includes the Avalon Motorcycle Project, which is an alternative school provision, the Summer University Programme, and the Duke of Edinburgh Awards. All our targeted and preventive programmes include delivering group work sessions in schools and community settings, raising awareness amongst parents and young people. So we also have staff linked with school. So we have staff linked in with a pupil referral unit. We have substance misuse workers based in hospitals who attend their safeguarding panels. We have youth early help practitioner in the MASH, and we have substance misuse workers placed in our pathways. So just say a bit more about the youth violence and exploitation teams. I said earlier about the Evolve team. So this is a relatively new team. As I said earlier, it supports people aged 17-and-a-half who are group gang affected and exploited. So this team carry out one-to-one case management support. They carry out assessments and plans. And it's a very flexible approach working with these children. There's quite a lot of multi-agency working as well. We don't have a time frame of working with them. And yeah, as I say, it's a very flexible service and a very flexible team, but they can work with them up until the age of 25. The detached youth work team consists of 3 senior youth workers, 1 specialist and a coordinator. So their work has included implementing the Regent's Park Guardianship Programme. And this is a VRU funding initiative that works with the community to provide safety for young people and the community, building resilience. And the Youth Justice Service has contributed to this by delivering sessions on contextual safeguarding in the community. And the detached team also support schools with delivering programmes. It's called the Choices Programme, which includes weapons awareness, and sometimes also Youth Justice Service staff support that team in delivering those sessions in school. The Youth Justice Service has also implemented what's called the Deferred Exclusion Programme. So this is an alternative to schools' exclusions for young people who offend at school. So it's normally based on a 12-week programme. So a caseworker from the Youth Justice Service will carry out an assessment and a plan with the young person. They will meet with them at school and deliver interventions to them at school. And it helps by motivating young people that if they complete the programme, then that school won't exclude them. So this was an initiative brought about, as I said, to prevent exclusions for young people who offend. Got to be quite specific with this, that it's not just about general poor behaviour. There has to be some link with offending. So, for example, it can be bringing drugs into school or bringing knife into school, around that kind of behaviour. But we have to be very clear that it's not to be used for children who generally have poor behaviour. The Youth Early Help offer, as I said here, it's a voluntary service focusing on early identification and response to emerging needs of young people. The service offers open access and universal youth provision, as well as targeted one-to-one support via casework for young people and their families. So the casework elements of the service primarily focus on vulnerable young people who are involved in or at risk of crime or antisocial behaviour, at risk of disengaging with education, at risk of becoming neat, associating with negative peer groups, at risk of exploitation, affected by problems within their family, misusing substance, being repeat victims, and young people with low mental health concern. So vision centres around this. So we have 3 youth hubs and a satellite project. So this is a universal offer, and this offers open access and structured positive activities programmes, trips and workshops. For example, recently there was a trip to South Africa. It includes accredited programmes to develop skills, confidence, awareness. The provision also includes substance misuse workers who deliver preventative workshops and one-to-one casework support to young people. There's Youth Early Help casework. So this is offering tailor-made support to young people and their families. And we also have what we call Engage Youth Diversion Programme. So we have 2 practitioners who meet young people who are detained in custody, and they can do assessments and work with those people if they don't come into the criminal justice system at that point, and they can work with them to divert them away. So this is an initiative in partnership with Camden and Islington, and it's police funded by the Mayor's Office for Police and Crime. We have Gavin. Gavin here is on the call, and he's manager of that team. In addition to the Integrated Youth Support Service, we support what's called the Children's Reintegration Base Programme, which was established as part of our Youth Safety Task Force. So it offers a 7-week programme for secondary students in year 7 and 9 of any Camden school who are at risk of permanent exclusion. Sorry. So in terms of the referral pathways for Youth Early Help, so we receive referrals via MASH, social workers, police, direct referrals from schools, hospitals, special educational need and disability departments, and youth and community settings. People can self-refer, and also the out-of-court disposal panel, and the Divert app, which direct referral to the Engage programme. In addition to a locality-based team, Youth Early Help also has an officer linked with Camden Centre for Learning. So that's our local pupil referral unit. And a forward, that's our substance misuse team, is also located within the Youth Justice Service, Children Looked After Team and Pathways, local hospitals, and adult services. So there's plenty of partnership workers within different teams. So in terms of the presenting needs of the Youth Early Help, so this just gives a picture of where most of the needs are. So as you can see, mental health is quite a big area, along with parenting issues and exhibiting public behaviour, so general behaviour. So there are the 3 main areas. Yeah, mental health is quite a big area for them. In terms of the statistics, reoffending rates, so this graph just shows you our reoffending rates in youth early help. And they monitor each cohort of young people over a 12-month period following their engagement. So as you can see from the figures, in 21-22, the figures are very good compared to the number of cases. So this impacts then on the Youth Justice Service first-time entrants. And as you can see here, there's been a steady decline in our Youth Justice Service over our first-time entrants. So we only had 24 in 22-23 compared to 75 in 2016 and 17. So this has been a really good result for us in reducing our first-time entrants.
And can I just note that this has happened during lockdown as well? Fantastic.
Yeah. And this is the final slide. This is just our cohort, a number of outcomes for Youth Justice Service over the past 6 years. So as you can see, there's a big reduction in our numbers from 2016 and 17. There were 155 individuals receiving an outcome compared to 41 in 2022-23. So these are our figures. I don't know whether, Charlotte, you want to add anything to that or say anything?
No, I guess it's just the Youth Early Help Initiative was established in 2016 and 17. So we can see that actually with the implementation of that prevention and targeted services, it is correlated with our reduction in children coming to our attention and the number of offences being committed. I'm not saying it's, you know, it's the only factor, but we feel like it's a really kind of strong correlatory factor to reducing our numbers and improving our performance.
Superb. Before we, what we'll do is we'll have Sharon's presentation in a moment, but I'll just go to Gavin. Gavin, would you like to add anything before we switch over to St Helens, please?
No, well, just about the Engage team, I suppose. We've now recently joined with Islington, so we're working across boroughs, and it's now becoming a Met-wide thing as well. So I've been meeting with Engage managers over London, and that's becoming more of a thing with getting youth workers into custody when young people are arrested, which is having a good impact. So, and we're getting lots of good feedback from young people from the sort of interventions that we're doing.
Oh, that's fabulous. So we'll come back to you guys in about 20 minutes or so for questions. To any of the delegates, please, if you have got questions, please put them into the question pane. We'll do our best to answer them on the fly, as Charlotte has kindly done, and then we'll have some general questions, and I have many already at the end. So thank you so much from the Camden team, and thank you so much, Hayley, for that description of that incredible. The word is integrated. Fantastic. So let's switch over to sunny St Helens and Hayley. Sharon Brownlow. Over to you, please. I think you're still muted. So if you click the old mute button and then the share button at the bottom of your toolbar. You gotcha.
I'm Sharon Brownlow, one of the team managers at St Helens Youth Justice Service. So if you just bear with me a minute. Okay, so this is our presentation for the Child First Partnership presentation. So in 2022, St Helens Youth Justice Service were proud to receive the redesignation Microlink Youth Justice Send Award with a Child First commendation. And the citation provided by Marius was around our evidence-informed prevention offer involving schools playing an active role in reducing exclusions and targeted work with the local care homes and upskilling staff through training in techniques such as restorative solutions. So this work is further supported by our re-engagement mentor working across teams and provisions to secure the best outcomes for young people with complex needs. So St Helens Youth Justice Service are co-located with the Young People's Drug and Alcohol team within St Helens. We support children and young people aged 8 to 17. We are a multi-agency team inclusive of specialists from police and health partners sitting within the building. We work with young people from prevention stage to statutory casework. We are a relatively small team with 5 case managers, 1 social worker, 1 probation officer and 2 turnaround workers who deliver the casework to our young people. We have a range of specialists supporting the caseworkers. So the demographics of St Helens, which reveals that 21.4% of the population falls within the 0 to 18 years category, so equating to 36,680 young people in the area. St Helens' rate of children looked after remains well above the national average, so 130 per 10,000 under 18-year-olds compared to 97 for the Northwest and 67 for England. So in 2019, the index of multiple deprivation, St Helens were ranked as the 26th most deprived local authority in England out of the 317. So 98% of St Helens residents consider themselves to be white British, which is higher than the England population average of 85%. So what we do here, so child first, we put children at the heart of what we do. So prioritising the best interests of children, so recognising their particular needs, capacities, rights and potential. So all the work is child focused, so developmentally informed, acknowledges structural barriers and meets responsibilities towards children. So we promote children's individual strengths and capacities to develop their pro-social identity for sustainable desistance, leading to safer communities and fewer victims. So all work is constructive and future focused. So we build upon supportive relationships that empower children to fulfill their potential and make a positive contribution to their society. So our YGS prevention offer is we offer both one-to-one and group-based prevention programs, harmful sexual behaviour prevention work, as well as consultation to partners to provide advice, guidance and resources. So a referral for the YGS prevention work can be made by any professional or direct from the child's family, and the programme lasts for about up to 3 months. So we do have a criteria, so they must be aged 8 or above, and they must have one of the following. So child is at risk of committing a crime. There have been a number of arrests in the local community, however, no further action has been taken. Involvement in antisocial behaviour in the community and concerns child is subject to criminal exploitation. And then lastly, significant concerns regarding carrying and use of weapons in the local community. So what we do as part of that work, so we provide training for all case managers and specialists around SEND, EHCP, additional needs, emotion coaching, which I'm hoping Marius will talk a little bit about that, and diversity. So guest speakers from a range of different relevant agencies support that training for all our case managers and specialists. So we work closely with schools. So our 2 YGS police officers alongside the interventions officer delivers 6-week programs around identified targeted prevention work. So they go into school and deliver those interventions that have been identified within the local authority. So we complete the Do It Profiler tool with children who are not known to SEND. So I have added the link for people to look at that if that's not something that you use. But the Do It Profiler highlights any possible additional needs during initial assessments with young people. They're referred to health professionals if possible, needs are identified. We may also contact the child and young person's school with the consent of the child and parent to highlight any concerns within that Do It Profiler, identifying any learning needs that the school might not be aware of. So we found that a really good, useful tool for our young people to identify any unmet needs that children are experiencing that have come through to the Youth Justice Service. So the Youth Justice Service Education Re-Engagement Mentor works closely with the SENCOs in each of the high schools across the local authority. So this ensures that any young people with SEND or an EHCP have correct support in place, both in education and within their sessions at the Youth Justice Service. So all Youth Justice Service staff have access to the speech and language therapists the CAMS liaison and diversion nurse, and the YJS nurse and the Barnardo's worker. So they provide peer supervision, training sessions and specialist assessments and support for young people. They have also devised a weekly health panel, which they will gain a list of caseloads, and upon allocation, they have individual catch-ups with case managers to identify any gaps, referrals needing to be made to continue and review and complete action set. So this is capturing young people that are coming through services, which we know within youth justice services that children have been missed or unidentified needs, additional needs and unmet health needs. So we try and capture that through our health panel, which sits weekly to discuss those cases and to make sure that those appropriate referrals are being made. So the Youth Justice Education Re-Engagement Mentor is in contact with the local authority SEND team each week. So we check if any new young people have become open to us, have a SEND or open to SEND or have an EHCP. So if they do, within days of the young person becoming open and allocated a case manager, this information is shared with all the staff who are working with that young person and integrated within their assessment and intervention. So they will, the re-engagement mentor also supports young people with attendance issues, exclusion and any relevant education issues. So attending sort of the fair access panels and making sure that all the education needs are met. We also deliver training to a number of care home providers. So that is done by the victim worker and our police officer. So we also deliver appropriate adult training to care home providers and social workers. We also deliver restorative justice training to care home staff. So the principal aim of that training is to make sure that we prevent the unnecessary criminalisation of children looked after, many of whom we know have SEND, and therefore impacting and reducing the number of first-time entrants and reducing reoffending rates. So we also work closely with our social care partners around the delivery of harmful sexual behaviour prevention work, jointly allocated with the social worker to complete assessments and deliver intervention. So we're in the process of setting up a peer supervision group whereby Youth Justice Service and the social care will meet together to discuss cases and support learning for newly trained staff. We also offer to all staff 3 times a year a peer supervision group with an external consultant who offers support and advice on complex cases. The office reception has a You Said We Did board, which shows the young person visually that their requests were achieved. So young people are actively involved in decision making around the building, being child friendly, making them feel comfortable and at ease. So they really enjoyed, choosing different, ideas. So that we have pool tables, we have bean bags for them to feel comfortable and sit in, and we do have an Xbox as well. We also have different crafts, lots of fidget toys. We also have a specific room which is for young people that are struggling with mental health. So it's they've chosen all the colours and ideas for that room so that they feel comfortable when they're coming into the office. Our most recent inspection, we did have some really good feedback from young people that they felt that the building was really good for them, and they felt at ease and comfortable whilst attending. So our most recent inspection of St Helens in November 22, they completed a full single inspection. So the findings were rated as good. So the results found within casework were outstanding and reached the highest score possible. So it was cited by the lead inspector that there was a strong and varied prevention offer, which had enabled positive outcomes for children. So the YGS is proactive in engaging children and families before they come to the out of court disposal panel. So staff were identified as the biggest asset of the service, which was lovely to hear. So thank you for listening, and as Mary has said, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate.
No, absolutely. And please keep those questions coming in on the chat. Just a word on emotion coaching. I had the absolute pleasure of working with the team up in St Helens over the course of 6 months to try and embed some emotion coaching practice in the frontline professionals. What is emotion coaching? It's a technique that helps young people to self-regulate more effectively. So often, hypervigilance to threat and then hyperreactivity causes no end of problems. But there are techniques you can use. It's not a recipe, it's almost like a way of being with a young child. And what I'm going to do is, yeah, I'm going to play you a 3-minute video. The first thing I must apologize for is the hair. This was shot during lockdown. I have to apologize for the hair on behalf of both of us. But this gives you an idea of how important emotional regulation is, and also the responses that certain professionals have in the system. So I'm just going to share my screen now and just enjoy this little clip, and then we'll go to questions. Here we go. We'll get that up on the screen. As I say, sorry about the hair.
So it was with a young girl who I was working with.
Yes.
She was due to go into school for her COVID flow test before school started,
Yes.
and she's not been in school the whole time, even though that she was eligible to do so because she has been on a CP plan. So she's not been going in. So she's really nervous about going to school anyway. So mum asked if I would go with her and make it more comfortable, which I did. So we spoke about it. And I think it was more about being back on the school site as well, rather than the actual COVID test.
Yes.
And we walked up to school, and the head of year and someone else, and the girls immediately she said, I don't like him. And I was like, oh, like, why is that? And she just kind of said, I don't like him. And as soon as we walked over there, he was just negative. The negativity, it was just like, where's your mask? When you come in, you're going to get excluded by doing that. You're talking about parent exclusions,
No.
talking about internal exclusions. I was like, she's been off site, she's been out of school for over like 12 weeks, and you're hitting her with external exclusions just immediately when she walks on site. She's clearly nervous about the COVID test and everything else, and they were just winding up. I could just see, I was like, she's going to turn around and she's not going to have this test, and she's just going to walk away.
Yes.
And I was just stood there, but I wasn't allowed to go anywhere near. I just heard this conversation from afar, and I was a bit like, it was one of those things whether if I had have been able to go in with her, would I have felt confident enough to challenge that? Because obviously these are the head of years, and they have that quite authoritative role, don't they? So it's whether
Indeed,
I would, because in a school I would have been a bit like, well, why are we starting off so negative? It's not how, obviously. So it's when she came out, I just talked through with that, kind of labelled the different emotions. I said, obviously, you were clearly obviously nervous. It's very like normal. I would be nervous. And I just said, obviously, sometimes it can come out as, because she started to become a bit rude as well towards the staff. But I said, sometimes it presents itself like that because you are nervous. You're not too sure why you're nervous. And I said, look, I think obviously about the staff and how they were kind of focusing on the negative. I said, I think they're just trying to get you ready for what's kind of going. But obviously, I would have personally liked to have been a bit more positive in the first day and stuff. So it was okay. But she was so, and I ended up taking her the first day of school as well, just to try and get her in there. And she was so nervous. And all she kept talking about was internal exclusions because she didn't have a mask. So I gave one of my own masks. I said, have a mask. I was like, no need to worry. Like, so that it just really infuriated.
It's fascinating. The bottom line from this, I think, is it's in the eyes of the person. And Sharon, first, you've invested heavily on training your frontline professionals, not just in emotion coaching, but in restorative practice and other ways of connecting with young people. Would you say that's a strength within your frontline staff?
Yes, absolutely. I think, that is the most important, that staff feel confident and, have the right training to be able to, because we work in a trauma-informed way, and it's really important that the young people have that support. So enabling staff to be able to deliver that, that way of dealing with young people, as well as families and professionals as well, and challenging professionals at sometimes at even at a more senior level, like Ellie talked about, the you know, the head of year, we need to make sure that young people are being, you know, being treated correctly and being acknowledging their needs and complexities.
Superb, thank you, Sharon. There's a question there from Linda, but I'll come to you with that. I'd like to go back to Charlotte, Hayley, and Gavin. So do turn your mics and cameras on, guys. The word that struck me about the plethora of teams that you have is integrated. That word integrated. Now that doesn't happen overnight, I'm sure. It wasn't a revolution, it was more like an evolution. I'm interested in how young people are kind of identified perhaps or triaged so that the right support gets to the right person. How does that work in such a large integrated team?
I was going to go to Gav for that one.
Yeah, so I sit, part of my role is I sit alongside the MASH team, and so when a referral can come in, as we said before, whether it be from police or from schools or from self-referral hospitals, obviously social care will look at it and see if it meets the threshold, and if it doesn't, I get basically the young people between the age of 10 and 17, and then I will read through the referral, look at the history, and contact the parents and have a conversation with the parents and the young person, and see what's going on. And then it might well be that a referral goes into, say, for a universal offer, which would be if for instance, if the parent is saying, look, actually, this is a one-off incident, but they really need to get involved in some positive activities, I'd say, okay, we'll talk about the universal offer then. And then that would mean a senior youth worker would go out to the home address and try and engage that young person, bring them along to one of the youth hubs we've got. Or it might be that there's been, it's a bit more complex than that, and we need to make a referral to the youth early help case manager to complete an early help assessment, and parents would sort of have to be on board with that. It might be that a referral comes in and I sort of read the information, and actually I think an FGC might be the most suitable thing, and I might speak to the FGC team and make a referral to them. So there's lots of different ways, there's lots of different elements in terms of how referrals come in. If, for instance, sometimes we'll get referrals that come in, but they're already open to the YJS team, and I would notify the caseworkers of that incident as well, if they don't already know. But that's just, it's almost like a safety net of that as well.
A lovely question there. This is from one of our attendees. Deferred exclusions sound great. Are all the schools in the area on board with this? Did you meet with difficulties in persuading some of the school communities into that pathway? Very good question.
I mean, no, there is one particular school that uses us. I think that as a team, I'm finding ways to promote it a bit more. But there is a new system in place at the moment where there's a new program where some pupils can go to our local PRU for kind of time out and then go back to their mainstream. So I think that might take away some numbers from the deferred exclusion program.
Yeah,
but
it's used as a revolving door, not as a depository. Yeah.
What's that? Sorry.
Your PRU.
Yes, it can be. Yes, it is now. And we started off with the pilot with just 2 schools that we had good relationships with, to kind of see if the initiative would work. And it was a real slow burner because it happened during lockdown, and obviously there was just, kids weren't attending school anyway. But we have decided, we do feel that there is something, we do have high numbers of exclusions, and it is part of our DISPRO work. We do have an overrepresentation of Black children being excluded compared to their white counterparts. So we really feel that actually we can provide that support earlier on. It will work. But yeah, it is about obviously keeping it on the agenda for head teachers or heads of inclusion, and how we continue to promote it.
But the feedback that we've had for the ones we have done has been really positive from schools, parents, and the young people. So yeah.
Fantastic. There's some great comments coming on the chat pane. Thank you ever so much for that. Sharon, can I come back to you? There was a specific question on disproportionality as well. The question was, sort of, you've got 98% of the local population identifying as white British, but do you have an over-representative of black children in your service? Over to you.
No, so we have a very small minority. Most of our young people that we deal with are IDing as white British. We do have a very small number of minority.
Yeah, and this is one of my theses as well. I was the head of a white working class school on the south side of Bristol. We have to appreciate complex needs, I believe, with some of these young children. So it's when communication difficulties or SEND perhaps collides with structural disadvantage, and one of those structural disadvantages is poverty. And it's a word that some of the policy makers don't like to hear, but it can have a profound impact on the life course of a child. It adds up to the aces in the hand, doesn't it? The adverse childhood experiences that we see. I'd also love you to say something about the Do It profiler. I think it's Professor Amanda Kirby. Is that right? I think it's her.
Yeah.
She's developed this tool. It's a fascinating tool. It's a kind of test, but it gives you a bit of an output as to the, if you like,
gives you a graph at the end of actually, the identified needs for that young person. So be it, a learning need, be it a speech and language, be it, communication. But, we found with young people, when we complete that to, at the start of the initial assessment, it really gives us a good idea of, the type of work that we need to do with that child, what, looking at their sort of, the learning styles as well, of how that, that young person will benefit better from that intervention, but also highlighting if we need to make, referrals to our health partnership.
Lovely. I think one of the common strands between St Helens and I think Camden, you have your re-engagement mentor. Camden has Gavin. Hi, Gavin. Other areas have started to appoint what they call complex caseworkers, who are, if you like, the route, the pathway to get the support. In yet other areas, there's, if you like, it's almost like a star chamber at the apex of all of these panels and meetings where the most needy young people are triaged and support given if there's no support there. First of all, Camden. When young people get to you with complex needs that aren't being met either in school or through an EHCP, I was impressed by you saying that things are sorted out in days rather than weeks or months. How do you manage to get that provision around a child so quickly?
Is that for St Helens? Did you mean, Mary?
Well, but both of you really. I'll start off with Camden, and then we'll go to St Helens.
Yeah. So from a sort of youth early help perspective, we've got various different sort of platforms which we can use. So, for instance, we've got the early help panel meeting, which we would discuss a case of all the early help services, and we would meet and it'd be a way of discussing the case to see what we can do to help the family. If, for instance, a case might be even out of reach for youth early help or early help, and we think it needs to be possibly discussed at a higher level, we would bring it to a panel called the Daily Discussion, which is with social care, to get their input on it as well, from an early help perspective. So we've got different mechanisms in place really to, if it is a complex family, to make sure that we can sort of help the family, as well as obviously we do TAF meetings and stuff like that with the network, where we get a lot of the information as well.
Superb. Thank you so much. And over to you, Sharon. How do you action support so fast, especially if they're unmet needs through the processes that you make?
So through allocations, as soon as allocations go out, so we do twice weekly allocations. So we have a court allocations meeting, and we also have an out of court allocations meeting. We have an identified administrator who then contacts the education local authority on the day of allocation to identify if that young person has sent EHCP. They then send over a copy of that EHCP to make sure that we have that relevant information, and then we will make contact with the school to liaise, which may involve obviously our re-engagement mentor. We have had a gap of a few months of not having a re-engagement mentor. Unfortunately, Ellie left us, but we've recently recruited and we have a new member of staff now, so we're back on track with that, which is really, really pleasing. But as a sort of the education lead, we think it's really, really important that those identified needs are identified if already, but obviously the Do It profiler helps us with the children that haven't been identified with those needs and being missed, because we know that a lot of young people coming into youth justice service are missed, and opportunities have been missed by various professionals throughout their life, and it's important that children get that right support.
Totally. And the final observation from me, you mentioned down to 8. Camden mentioned up to 25. So I'll come to Charlotte first. I mean, what you guys are doing, you seem to be working across what I would call some service cliff edges. You are taking the spirit of the SEND reforms, which is 0 to 25, as the heartbeat of what you do. Charlotte?
Do you want me to speak specifically around the transitional staff, or?
Yeah, well, just generally, do make your point.
Well, yeah, I guess we acknowledge in Camden that actually lots of systems have cut-off points. You've got eligibility, or short-term interventions, and what we try to do is make things a bit more flexible and fluid. So in our service, we also have voluntary support programs. If we feel they're not ready they've completed their sentence, if you like, or their intervention, but there is still quite a lot of ongoing need, we'll make a judgment call if they need a voluntary support program, or if they need, they might want to be stepped down to youth early help, which we'll try to do. But again, obviously, if they've got that relationship with the worker, it might be staying there. If they're 17 and a half, we're trying to improve actually our step down work at the moment, but we are doing a lot of work around transitional safeguarding arrangements, and acknowledging at 18 there is a bit of a cliff edge. So we try to get 17-year-olds engaged with our Evolve service before they end their intervention, so they've got that relationship already established with that worker alongside their youth justice worker. So when their intervention ends, they've got that ongoing support to look at other areas of their life that they might want to be tackling or accessing support through. And we've just, it does depend on each child. Some children aren't ready to engage with other workers at particular times, so we have to work through that. But like Hayley said, there's a lot of flexibility with the Evolve team, and I think another good thing is that Hayley used to work in the Evolve team, Gavin used to work in the Youth Justice Service. We make sure there are internal secondment opportunities for staff to work across services, so we have a better understanding and we can share how different services work. And we're also reviewing our Youth Justice Case Manager JDs at the moment to think about actually, do we want them to up, because we're quite quiet, because Youth Early Help are doing such great work, but they're really busy. So actually, do youth justice workers need to expand their job description to work with youth early help cases as well? And then we could, obviously, if we're going to work with some of those children, and if some of those do graduate into youth justice realm, we've already got that existing relationship with the family and the child. So that's the next stage that we're trying to work on.
Superb, guys. We're coming to the end of it. I just need to thank all of you, Gavin, Charlotte, Hayley, Sharon. I felt that was so illuminating, and I hope that what was nice, only two people have left, which is a statement to how engaged everyone is. Thank you so much. Next month, we are incredibly fortunate to have Sharon Gray from the Youth Justice Board as a guest. And the two of us are going to be doing a bit of a forward look. We're not calling it 2020 vision. We're calling it 2030 vision. So we're going to have a look at some of the trends, actually, which you've covered off today. Some of the trends which we hope will continue to drive down first-time offending rates and prevent the criminalisation of our young people. But guys, that was a fabulous seminar. Thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind staying
Thank
on,
you.
and we'll just say goodbye to our wonderful guests who've stuck with us for the whole hour on a really busy day. Thank you very much, and hopefully see you in about a month's time. And thanks for the comments, everyone. Thank you.